Welcome back, everyone, to the second part of this glorious day, day 2 of Connect Now. I don't want to waste any time. We have a jam-packed afternoon, so let's immediately throw it over to the virtual stage. Please welcome Glenn Kelman, CEO of Redfin.
Got you right now.
Hi, this is me, Glenn. Brad asked me to talk about 7 big trends that we're seeing at Redfin. Some of them easy to respond to, some of them have been hard to respond to. I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to dive right into it. Thanks, everyone, for having me. As always, I'm excited and honored to be here. So here are the 7 big trends, and the first one that we obviously have to talk about is diversity. I'm sure many other speakers have addressed this. This is an issue that we have discussed on stage before. As recently as 2018, we talked to the Inman crowd about how the Fair Housing Act wasn't cutting it, and we had to do more. And now we see that in some of the most segregated cities in America, that's where there have been the biggest protests, the greatest problems with racism and violence. This is not an issue where we're pointing the finger at anyone except ourselves. It's been a real challenge for us to diversify our ranks. About 36% of Redfin employees are people of color. That's up from 30% a couple of years ago. But where we really need to do better is in increasing diversity among the executive ranks. We've had a couple of different events on race and real estate where we tried to educate our employees about how you can implicitly decide that a Black customer isn't worth serving or doesn't understand real estate or doesn't have the money to buy a house. And at every annual event, this big kickoff called Redferno in January, we bring in people to speak about that. If you're a broker, I would encourage you to contact the Newsday team that did the big Long Island study. This is the one that found that 49% of Black customers got unequal treatment. They wore hidden cameras, went into different real estate agents' offices or on tours. They had hundreds of interactions that they recorded, and what they found is that there was a lot of steering where white customers got better service, Black customers were sent to different neighborhoods, and having the people who actually recorded those videos, who posed as home buyers, talk to our real estate agents about the cues that made them get discouraged or made them really engage. Huge difference for us. So that team was awesome, and I think if you put them on stage, you won't regret it. But our issue now is that the executive team, me, Bridget, Chris, Scott, Adam, Karen, Anthony, and others, are almost entirely white. We have a few Black leaders at Redfin in our senior ranks. We have a few Asian American leaders in our senior ranks, but we just need to do better. It is so dispiriting for our employees. So I know that lots of people are going to get up on stage and have a lot of high-minded sentiments, but I think the real challenge for the real estate industry, because we have such important jobs, is to just recognize that 80% of real estate agents are white, 60% of America is white, we're underrepresented, as agents, but especially represented in the leadership of our brokerages. So I hope that we can do better. This is something that we're really working hard on at Redfin, and we'll keep you updated on our progress. The one thing that really drives me crazy about it, though, is that now there are actual antitrust lawsuits over the ability to get listings. And I just can't even believe we're talking about that in 2020. Everyone knows if you talk to the people who study race and real estate, the number one thing you could do to make real estate fair is to outlaw market listings. And so I know that companies with large listing share, Redfin has tens of thousands of listings benefit by promoting those listings first on our website or exclusively on our website or only showing it to our customers, but it ends up leaving people of color out in the cold. So we should stop doing it. The second big trend that we're responding to is migration. The chart on the right shows how much patterns have shifted. If you look at listing views on redfin.com, the listings that are getting all the traffic right now are in small towns. That traffic has accelerated. We have tripled the growth rate for traffic in these small towns, whereas the growth rate for traffic in the major cities has basically been flat. If you could work from home, why would you pay the tax to live in New York or San Francisco or even here in Seattle? And so almost all of our customers are considering a great vacation. And the reason that that's beneficial for the big brokerage brands is because they're going to connect with an agent in one town to sell their place and connect with another agent in another town to buy their place. And that just requires more cooperation. The big challenge for Redfin has just been getting enough real estate agents in the small towns. We made our bones in big cities like San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Chicago, now a migration to the outlying areas. And so that's going to be a challenge for everyone, but it's also going to be a massive opportunity because homes are going to be for sale as people get on the move. The third challenge that we wanted to talk about is just visualizing listings. So we saw a huge spike in video chat tours at the height of the pandemic. It was a third of our demand. It's still going to be about 1 in 5 customers who are touring homes via video chat. And now that's not just about shelter in place. It dovetails with all of the migration. If you've got somebody considering Grand Rapids, Michigan, instead of Chicago, where they're going to keep their Chicago job but live in Rapids, why would they drive across the lake just to realize that a home looks terrible as you walk through the neighborhood? They're instead going to ask the agent to do a video tour. So video tours have become something not only used for shelter in place, but also for customers moving from afar, looking from afar. It's become a convenience feature. And what's become an even bigger trend are 3D scans. So video chat tours are where a real estate agent just walks around a house with an iPhone and shows people what the house looks like. This is something that's more on demand. It looks like Google Street View. If you haven't actually seen it, it's ridiculously incredible. Matterport makes this, Zillow has this, other folks have it. Our listing agents use Matterport scans. And if you look at the percentage of inventory that has been scanned in a place like Orange County, it's 25%. The slide actually has a typo on it showing it as 10, but it's 25%. So it's gone absolutely through the roof. About 1 in 4 listings in major metropolitan areas have these scans. And what's going to turn the flywheel for that is that websites like redfin.com are going to prominently feature those scans. So we're turning our website upside down to let people interact with these scans. Like I said, it's a Google Street View of the house. You can look in the bathroom. You can figure out if that window faces east or west. It's just amazing with these dollhouse views, these floor plans, and everything else. I think almost every high-end is going to have it. Most mid-tier listings are going to have it. We expect it to be the new listing photograph. And as more portals, more websites feature these 3D scans, we just expect it to take off. And so that creates a challenge for the MLS. You have to be the repository for these scans and videos. There are some companies that have applications that directly upload it to one website, but don't put all the inventory into the MLS. And you just want to be careful about that, because if the MLS didn't have all the photos, you would freak out. And in the same way, you need to make sure the MLS has all the scans. So that's a challenge for the MLSs to just partner with all the different companies that are creating scans, but also to have really great data fields for syndicating those scans out to every brokerage site, every portal site. All the websites that real estate consumers use should have access to these scans and videos. It's a revolution where websites aren't just going to be pictures, they're going to be moving pictures and TV and interactive applications. And to be able to accommodate that, the MLS has really got to change fast. You guys have been doing a great job so far. Keep it up. The thing that we worry about is just that as people look at homes online, not just look at pictures, but participate in video chat tours or engage with these three-dimensional scans where they can walk through the house and interact with every single room, it just defers the point at which they hire a real estate agent. So it used to be that you had to hire an agent just to see the listings. And then, of course, the listings went online about 15 years ago. Then you had to hire an agent when you wanted to schedule the tour. We've done a lot with on-demand touring. Other companies have too, where you can just push a button on a website and schedule the tour without talking to anyone. It has been the central magic act of Redfin. When we did on-demand touring, demand just shot through the roof. But now what's happening is that people aren't even meeting the real estate agent on the tour. Often they are asking for video tours. Often they are engaging in these three-dimensional scans. And so they get to the point where they've seen a house that they want to buy without having met a real estate agent. That is a huge change. And we don't think people are going to buy houses that they haven't actually walked through, but we already saw at the height of the pandemic these clauses added to contracts saying that the walkthrough will happen once we agree on terms. We've seen plenty of buyers say, I'm going to get it down to 2 or 3 finalists before I finally meet a real estate agent in person. And that has just put us on high alert that we might have to beef up our capabilities around online offers. That if customers are going to get to the point of seeing a house that they want to buy without having met an agent, they're going to challenge the economics of the transaction. They're going to want to do more of it on some of the things that we've been talking about that seemed wackadoodle for a decade are just finally coming to pass because the world has changed so much in the past 10 weeks around how it feels virtual service in every dimension. So that's the fourth trend. The next one is about volatility. So we're used to volatility in housing. That's why they call it the housing cycle. Things go up and down, but what's been happening recently has just been crazy. So demand was off about 60% maybe 8 weeks ago, and now it's up 30%. It's tapered just a little bit this week. We have to account for the serious wound that America is feeling because of what happened to George Floyd. That is more important than the housing market, but it has an effect on the housing market. And so we have just told everyone at Redfin, strap in. It's going to be a wild ride. And because we have fixed costs where we employ our agents and give them healthcare benefits and all the rest, it makes it really hard for us to run the business. We spend more energy than any other brokerage trying to predict demand because we don't have a bunch of idle capacity. We don't have contractor agents who are just waiting for the next deal. Most of our agents are pretty busy most of the time. And so this is what we're doing about it because I think it's something that might benefit other brokerages too. So the first thing is that we've just recognized that we're going to have to be able to spin up a large number of real estate agents very quickly. In the past, we've hired for real estate expertise, where we want people who have sold houses before, and that's still going to be important. But maybe you've seen me present at Inman when we have experimented with hiring great salespeople and training them on customer service and on real estate. They have done just as well as the experienced real estate people we've gotten from the industry. So increasingly, we are becoming opinionated about being able to hire for passion and drive and people skill and brains and having the capacity to train people on how the real estate world works and being able to get somebody up and running in 2 or 3 months on how to write a contract, on how to tour a home, on what Mellow Roofs is, on all the ins and outs of real estate is a real challenge when you can't put everyone together in a training room. We know that come January and February at the start of the next home buying season, we're going to have to train more than 1,000 people virtually. And that has just become a huge challenge because we are taking some people who are new to the industry. But one opportunity is that it's also allowed us to recruit more top producers to give the training. It used to be that we didn't want to take our best salespeople out of the field to give a class because they were on the plane and in a hotel instead of meeting customers in the local market. But now you get this massive leverage where you do a virtual training experience to thousands of people, you record it, and you have your most credible, your top agent talking about this is what I do. But the final lesson for us in trying to become more agile is just about simplifying our systems. Sometimes it's like launching a space shuttle using Redfin's agent tools. And so our efforts to make those dead simple to use, where we prompt you on exactly how to schedule the tour, we prompt you exactly how to close a deal, we prompt you exactly on how to follow up with a customer and which one is most profitable, that's going to let us scale the business up and down with the market much faster. And that's the challenge that all of us have, is that we've got to bring agents on board, get them going really fast, and have them use our tools so they can deliver service at a higher level. So those are some of the changes that are really rocking our brokerage right now, that I think affect us more than others because we do have an employee model. But there are others. Just because real estate is awash in capital, you've got Opendoor and Zillow and Compass and Redfin and many other players who have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. You're seeing this process of vertical integration where almost all of them are getting title companies, mortgage companies. Many of them are in iBuying, but also looking at brokerage. And the reason is that customers want a one-stop shop. The comparison we always make is to a grocery. There is a place for that niche butcher, for that high-end fishmonger, for the baker who makes the delicious bread. But most people go to the grocery store to get it all done in one place. And so we think that many parts of the market are going to be served by specialists, and that those specialists are going to work together to create a coherent customer experience. But we also see a wave of consolidation ahead where brokerage, title, mortgage, and iBuying are all put together to give the customer more choices and ultimately to deliver more value. You just have to remember that it costs us about $250 to meet a customer. And then it costs a title company $250 to meet a customer, and a mortgage company to $250 to meet a customer. And when you add all that up, it's thousands of dollars in overlapping customer acquisition costs. And it's just going to be much more efficient when we work together, so that we can pass that value on to the consumer and also make more money ourselves. So this is the future that we see as a real estate superstore where title, brokerage, and mortgage come together. And I think the big challenge for us is just making renovation an on-demand service. We know that many listing customers, even if they're not going to take an instant offer, want their house fixed up without having to do any of the work themselves. That's how you really get top dollar. It's not just a marketing challenge of taking good pictures or putting them on the right website. It's about making the house show better when a buyer drives up to it and walks through the front door. And so that is going to increase the cost of competition for us. It is operationally intense. We screw it up for 5 years, but eventually I hope we can get it right. So those are the trends that I wanted to talk about. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. I've really enjoyed giving it. I have one other thing that I just want to say, which is I just want to thank Brad for having me on this event. I wanted to thank the industry for putting up with all my nonsense every single year. Try to deliver value. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Thank you, Inman. Bye.
Thank you so much for that. Always enlightening. So much to come. And we have so much to come later on this afternoon as well. Well, at least over the next hour or so. I told you we had CEOs galore today, and I wasn't kidding. Next up, I am happy to announce that we have Guy Gal, the CEO of Side. I heard a lot of conversations about Side over the last 24 hours, virtually, of course. So please welcome to the stage Guy Gal and Clelia.
Why use a bunch of technologies that don't talk to each other when you could use just one? Realtors, meet the SentryKey showing service. It's the easy way to be more productive and organized from wherever you need to be. Schedule and manage showings. Reschedule automatically with SentryKey Virtual Assistant for mobile. Share listings and appointments with clients. Manage your client roster. Open lockboxes, and so much more. Visit SentryLock.com to get started.
With Cloud CMA, our goal is to make you look awesome. Awesome at the kitchen table, awesome from your iPad, awesome in the living room, awesome from anywhere.
Normally at Connect events, we invite entrepreneurs and startups to pitch their companies to the Inman community from the main stage. But this year, we're doing it a bit differently. Here to pitch you their companies are a few of your 2020 new kids on the block.
Here at Dippity, we help our clients attract, not chase business through custom content marketing and social media advertising strategies. Every quarter, we match your goals with your marketing plans to build brand awareness, develop trust, and entice more people to work with you. We also ensure that you're maximizing the website platform that you're investing in. What really makes us unique, though, is we don't become another vendor on your team. We become an extension to it. We look at our clients as long-term partners, and we focus on growing your business so you can focus on running it. The best part is actually we're a third or the fourth of the cost of what it would be to hire someone on your team, to recruit, to train them. There's no training for you. We are 100% done for you. So if you want to learn more about how we can grow your business and scale it, contact me below at tyler@dippity.com.
Well, wait. By show of hands, how many of you feel it's important to summarize key transaction activities and provide your clients a timeline for their transaction? Okay, great. And keep your hand raised if you've ever had a transaction where the timeline didn't shift. Nobody? Okay, so you have a choice. You can either ruin your inbox and your clients with endless updates, or convince yourself that chaos is normal. Well, we didn't like those options, so we built a third. Closio removes the friction of providing exceptional and transparent client service and makes your success repeatable. Closio supercharges your business by powering dynamic, responsive checklists that engage you or the right person on your team at the right time with the right task, and keeps everyone on the same page and moving forward in the same direction. As it's easier to show than explain, we've posted a 2-minute demo video at closio.com/connect, or you can email me at matt@closio.com.
Who else is obsessed with the New Kids on the Block videos? They're all getting so incredibly creative. It's my new favorite thing. All right, so that was a teaser beforehand. I hope everybody's ready. Plug and Play Brokerage, the future of real estate. Let me welcome our beloved Claylia Peters and Guy Gal.
I feel like we're cheating because I know you so well.
Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with Guy Gal, who is a dear friend of mine and someone who I'm looking forward to talking to about what's next in the real estate industry. Guy, maybe you can start off by talking to us a little bit about your own story, what brought you into the residential real estate industry, and what motivation you had to start Side.
Yeah, so I am a real estate outsider. I did not come from the industry. I was a technologist before, and I was working on creating and building technology products. And maybe 4 years ago, I became really interested in what I was seeing in real estate, which was that you have today about 1.5 million agents nationwide that facilitate 5.5 million transactions each year. Now, only about 100,000 of those 1.5 million are very experienced in high volume. And that also means they're very entrepreneurial. And what that also means is that they're underserved by the existing brokerages, because existing brokerages are designed for the average agent, an agent that does maybe 1 to 6 deals a year. And it was obvious to us that the industry needed a brokerage platform that was specifically designed for top producing agents and teams. So a team that facilitates 40 transactions a year has a very different set of needs than an agent who does 4 deals a year. And every other brokerage is designed for that agent doing 4 deals. That's the kind of average sort of thing. So that's why we founded the company, to support the very best agents in a way that existing brokerages cannot, because they have to design for and serve into the average agent, not the exceptional agents. So that's why it is that I felt really compelled, because personally, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I know how hard it is to wake up in the morning and connect invisible dots, and it takes a lot of heroics and work and effort to do that. And I saw so many agents doing that without any support whatsoever. And in fact, I saw them having to deal with lots of friction because the existing brokerages did not want them to become more important or higher producing. It wasn't in their best interest. So that really compelled me to create something different alongside my co-founders, Ed and Hillary. And now we're a very large team doing this at a much larger scale 3.5 years later.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what that friction that you think top teams encounter is and how Side sort of works around it.
Yeah, so if you're an agent on an existing brokerage, they really want to fit you into their mold so that you're putting their brand first and it's specific to their colors and their aesthetic. They also don't want you to produce too much, because let's say you're an agent doing $40 million a year in home sale volume. If you become an agent that's now doing $80 million a year in home sale volume, you're going to pay that brokerage the same amount of money at 40 million in volume as you would at 80 million, because you're going to negotiate a much better split for yourself. And that means that the brokerage now has to do, twice the work for the same money. So why would they want that? They don't want that. It's not what they encourage from agents. A brokerage would rather have.
I'm going to push back a tiny bit there just quickly and say, I think it's more complex than that. I think for a lot of brokerages, they want those top agents because, it's almost like a sports team where you're paying your top talent, like, truly top dollar. I think the point that you're making, though, that there's an 80-20, there's 20% of agents produce 80% of the value in the industry. And those people often have negotiated agreements, which means that they don't bring much value to their own brokerage, is a really important one.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance here. So obviously we're going to try to simplify given that we have a short amount of time. But the basic idea here is that a top agent, a top producing team, high volume teams, that is not something that brokerages ever contemplated 10, 15 years ago. Those are recent phenomena, right? Those are things that are happening because of the internet and an agent's ability to go direct to consumer and not be intermediated by a brokerage office. So it breaks the mold. And we figured that you had to create a new mold, and that mold had to be in the shape of those agents, not something that forced, a round peg or a square peg into a round hole. So lots of different things that influence that, but that's the general idea.
So, I think a lot of people in the audience are going to be saying, this sounds a lot like Compass and the pitch that Compass has made to the agent community. What's different about Side?
A lot of things. Well, first and foremost, average agent at Compass, depending on the month, is doing 5 to 7 transactions a year. Average agent that we work with does 40 transactions a year. So that's not even in the same ballpark. It's a different sport that's being played. The second thing is that we're a brokerage platform. We're not a brokerage brand. So Side is not a consumer-facing company. We don't care about developing Side as a consumer-facing brand. That's a very important thing for companies like Compass or Coldwell Banker or Keller Williams. I would say Compass is more like Coldwell Banker than it is like Side. Side today, if you look behind me, powers hundreds of boutique brands that we created from scratch alongside these high volume agents and teams to specifically service the nuanced needs of their communities and their markets. So we're a silent partner. We are the brokerage of record. We do all of that work, but we're behind the scenes, and it's not one big brand that we try to fit everyone to.
Yeah, so you referenced hundreds of partners. Do you want to just talk a little bit about traction to date and the growth of Side as a platform?
Yeah, so we're about almost 3.5 years old. So we're not too, we haven't been around too long, but we've managed to do a lot in a short period of time. And that's just a credit to the agents who we've partnered with. if you were to take last year's production volume of all the agents that we currently serve, that would represent roughly $8 billion in home sales, which would make us a top 20 brokerage nationally. Now, we don't really bother to report our numbers or put them on lists because it's not about us. It's about the individual agents and teams that we support, empower, and work with. But that's considerable traction in a relatively short period of time. And maybe just to size it down a bit, San Francisco, where we started the company, which is one of the most challenging markets to start a brokerage in the world. You know, a lot of brokerages have tried to establish themselves in San Francisco and were not able to. Today, we represent 15% of all active listings in San Francisco. And, you know, again, credit to our partners, to those agents and those teams, because they're the ones who do that work. But that's the type of traction that we've seen so far, and it's only intensifying.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the audience, you do that by partnering with top agents, helping them bring their own brands to the market. So
Right.
even in San Francisco, there might be people who are interacting with side companies and may not even be aware that actually
right.
those companies are powered by Side, because Side is
Mhm.
really the silent partner behind.
Yeah, if you look at San Francisco, last year, the office with the highest sale price, average sales price per home, it was not Compass, it wasn't Sotheby's, it was City Real Estate. City Real Estate is owned by David Cohen. David Cohen is a side partner. We run that back office. We produce all that marketing. We help them grow. We help them get more productive, save more time. We created that brand alongside of him and his team. But as far as the consumer, the client is concerned, they're working with City Real Estate. That's the actual brand. It's Side doing business as, but the ownership is David's. And he deserves that ownership because, you know, he's $150 million in volume a year at a $2.8 million average price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I think is really interesting and, you know, probably relates to several different things is that you've actually seen pretty robust continued transactions during the COVID period. Do you want to talk about that and kind of what you attribute that to?
It always comes down to the company you keep. It's taken a lot of discipline to be the only brokerage that only works with top producers, because there are so many agents who are interested in our model and our approach who we have to say no to because they've yet to prove themselves out.
Yeah.
So we're not really good at helping someone who does 0 deals a year get to 1. We're very good at helping someone who does 40 deals a year or 20 deals a year or 100 deals a year, double that, triple that, quadruple that over time. And those are the agents that tend to persist in times of crisis. So if you looked at the housing crisis of 2008, top producers and high volume agents picked up market share. They didn't lose it during that time because all of the 1.4 million part-timers left the industry, or at least about half of them left the industry. So similar situation with this crisis. Our partner agents have outperformed the overall real estate market by 2.5 times through the crisis. The biggest part of that is that's who they are. They're resilient, creative, resourceful. They see themselves as fiduciaries to their client. They're not looking for an excuse not to do the work. They're looking for how they can get it done for them, no matter what the situation might be. And that, of course, makes a huge difference. And then Side will take a little tiny bit of credit, which is to say, as shelter in place was happening, a lot of brokerages, most brokerages couldn't even close deals with agents because they provide that service in offices, brick and mortar, with people. And all of a sudden, everybody was home and offices were closed. So how do you audit and how do you clear and how do you sign off and disperse? We didn't have that issue. Our partners were able to transition seamlessly into that new normal because we provide all that service over software through our proprietary application and platform. So they did not lose a single beat.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, we haven't talked about it as much up until now, but I think one of the true differentiators of the Side platform is that you're really a SaaS, which means a software as a service platform. Right. And that you've built what, in my opinion, is maybe the first true end-to-end transaction management platform. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I really, you know, I've certainly seen and engaged with that software, and it was the quality of that software that got me really excited about the company.
Yeah, we don't talk a lot about our technology because philosophically we believe that technology is at its best when it blends into the background and you can't tell it apart from what is real. So we just wanted to create magical experiences, and we put our technology behind agents, not between them and their clients. So we really truly are a silent partner in that respect. But what our product concerns itself with is reducing the amount of time an agent spends in transaction to zero, which is to say eliminating all the clerical and administrative work, menial, rote, repeatable sort of stuff that takes up half of their time, and allowing machines to do that because they do that much better, much faster. And obviously we have humans in the loop, so there's intervention and escalation. And that way you provide a much higher service level than a brokerage, an existing brokerage can in office, because you can hire people that are higher salaried, that are more capable, and you can concentrate them and then deliver their services through one uniform application. So that's served us well, it served agents well. But we really, really focus on saving them time, because a great agent is not going to be opportunity constrained. They're going to be capacity constrained. And if you can give them back time, they can do more business. They can actually increase their income. They can grow. They can get some more sleep. They can take a vacation, whatever. So that's really important in our approach to building proprietary technology. We don't build our own CRM. We'll license CRM, because it's better to license a CRM from a company that's invested $100 million in building something best in class than it is to hack something together that's really buggy when something great already exists and is out there. So we focus on building in the places where nobody's built before.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people in the real estate world have talked about building these types of platforms and are claiming to build these types of platforms. But give me a couple of examples of places where you think Side has actually built something that doesn't exist other places that has real value for agents.
Yeah, I'll say one thing and then I'll address the question directly. But it's really easy to market that, to say we're a technology company now, or we're tech enabled, or whatever. That's in large part why we don't approach things that way. We do not say we're a technology company, even though we're more a technology company than any other company in real estate. It's not even close, because that's all what makes us special. What makes us special is that we will put an agent in a team in a position where they own a real asset in a business that's all their own, without actually having to operate a brokerage or assuming new responsibilities. Quite the opposite. It's about shifting time back to them, making them more productive, allowing them to do more business. It's about providing them with a service that helps them grow their income more predictably. Ultimately, it's about creating a community that's very exclusive and qualitative, because it's all highly experienced people. Now, there are so many examples of things that we've done and built, but I'll give you maybe just the one, which is today, our partners do not have to even interface with escrow, because in the transaction process, in the workflow in our application, they can like hit a button to attach. They don't have to make the phone call, write the email. All that is systems driven. Everything gets opened and then managed by our team, so they don't have to constantly be in the weeds of the transaction. So they're in control and they get to make the final decision, but they don't actually have to do all the heavy lifting and the work. And even the admins or operators on their team that they've hired to help with that get a lot of value from it, because they can start focusing their time on doing things that are more valuable and more high value, not $10 an hour work, but $100 an hour work.
Awesome. So I just want to add an example of my own, which is that, in the early days of Side growing, I had the privilege of seeing some of what you guys were building. And one thing that really stuck with me was, it's so sticky for a lot of agents when they start a new listing and they have to enter their customers' information into several different systems now. And in almost every company, this is the place. And several years ago, what got me really interested in Side. And I do want to just be clear to everyone who's watching that I was so interested in Side that last year, Guy asked me to join the board of Side, and I did.
Thank you.
So I do have something of a bias in talking to you, but I would say that bias is based on having met a lot of companies in the space and being really interested in this model and seeing it as complementary to actually companies like my own family's company. But just the fact that people could enter that information once and then it would auto-populate in all of the different forms and all of the different systems, little things like that makes such a big difference. And I think are part of what's going to differentiate Side going forward. So
conceptually, it's about capturing just the essential input from an agent, and then in the first mile of a transaction of the workflow, and then using that to automate all of the additional things that they would otherwise have to do manually downstream. And that just, depending on the type of transaction, will save an agent 4 to 8 hours on every transaction because of that.
Yeah.
And that's why in part today, 30% of our partners aren't just agents and top producing teams coming out of somebody else's brokerage. They're actually similar to your family's company, to Warburg Realty, where they're independents. So in San Francisco, for example, we had the great privilege of recently partnering with Barbco, which is a San Francisco institution, independent brokerage for the last 40 years. Similarly, with Strokey Properties in Manhattan Beach, or Amalfi Estates in the Pacific Palisades, and many, many more. And it's a real privilege to work with them because they don't go independent because they want to run a back office. Yeah. That's not what compels them. They go independent because they want to be in control and be able to express themselves creatively and actually own their own business, as opposed to running a business that they don't even own.
Yeah. I think, I'm getting the signal that we have to wrap, but I think that point of
already
nobody goes independent because they want to run a back office is really a nice summary of what's differentiating about Side in the market right now.
No top producing agent or team want to do that work either. They have to, because the brokerages don't do it for them, and they burden them with all of this clerical administrative work. And our perspective is, you're spending half your time doing things you shouldn't. Come partner with us and let us do those things way better than you can, so that you can focus on what you do best.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Guy. It's a pleasure to talk to you always.
Always nice to see you.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Am I the only one that thinks Guy would be super fun to have a beer with? I don't know. He was awesome. Great smile, Guy. Great message. I love the logos behind you too. Very, very cool. Next up, this is going to be good. Luxury Redefined. We're going to welcome Brad back, along with Mauricio, Dolly, Jenny, and Amy.
Hi, this is Brad Inman. We're back, and we're going to talk about luxury real estate. Where is this thing in the whole scheme of the world? Luxury real estate, the probably most aspirational part of real estate in our industry and in the marketplace. And I couldn't have 4 better, more talented people to help me figure this out. I have Mauricio Mumansky, who is the CEO of the agency. Hey, Mo, how are you?
I'm great, Brad. Good to talk to you, like always. This is a new venue.
And
I've got to see how it rolls.
Yeah, see how it rolls. And I got 2 of my faves. I've got Dolly and Jenny Lenz together. Look at that look-alike couple. Mom and daughter, or is it daughter and mom? I think mom's now the assistant, right, Jenny? Say hi. How are you 2 doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. How about you, Dolly?
Great. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
And anchoring this group is someone that I had an opportunity to do a podcast with recently, and was so impressed. I said, come on to the Inman stage and show us your stuff. And her name is Amy Kiratre. Do I have it right, Amy?
Pretty close. Kirarte.
There you go. And I'm going to keep practicing. And she's with Tahoe Luxury Properties, so she's up in Lake Tahoe. So we got really 4 great point of view here. And so I'm glad you're all doing well. I guess we're all doing as well as we can, right, in these times? Is that a fair statement?
I'd say that's a fair statement. There's some really awkward things going on right now, right? And we're just trying to stay safe and survive. I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, there you go. But let's talk about the luxury market. So the luxury market presumes it's the wealthy, the higher income earners. What are they feeling now, and what are they doing? Dolly, let's start with you and Jenny. You've got a lot of clients in that upper echelon of the very wealthy, kind of under siege right now, you could say, but also pretty privileged. What are they thinking and doing right now? Like, what's their outlook, and what are they thinking about in terms of housing?
I mean, they're looking at real estate as nesting, right? So they're looking at their apartments, their homes as some place they have to spend perhaps more time than expected in. Their kids may have to go to school at home. They may have to work from home. And they want to be safe at home. So they want to provide a safe environment. So a lot of our clients are looking at second, third, fourth homes in places maybe they didn't have a huge home before, but had a presence.
Right, and I think density is going to be the name of the game in the future. I think people, their wish lists are going to change, especially the luxury buyers. They're going to want smaller buildings, maybe less than 100 units per building, maybe 4 apartments a floor, and just thinking about fewer amenities, right? Where all these developers before were building, the dog park and the swimming pool and the gym and everything you could name so that they could distinguish themselves from the next building. But now I think that's going to be a little bit of a shift.
Right, because nobody wants to congregate, at least for the short term, other than perhaps some looters. But except for that, I think most people don't want to congregate, and they're going to be separating themselves. So they're looking for places they can be comfortable within their homes.
Right. And in that vein, we're seeing so much activity in the Hamptons right now. Everyone's asking us for rentals. We've done several rental deals there. And we think ultimately those are going to convert to sales just like they did after 9/11, because people are going to want to be able to escape to a safer, less dense place in times like this.
Let me ask you, though, what happens to Billionaire Row? I mean, those are 90 stories, those things are probably scary right now for people to even think about. I mean, talk about density, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, most of those buildings, while they're 90 stories, they have no more than 4 apartments to a floor because they're kind of thin. So the density isn't as much of an issue. A lot of those buildings have less than 100 units, even though they're very tall. So I don't think the height is going to be necessarily a turnoff. And we have people at the very moment bidding on things or continuing to that they started before COVID, right? So I don't think that's the issue. I think it's more the issue. Lots of buildings in New York literally have 26, 27 apartments a floor. So you go from A to Z and then AA. That's what they don't want. They don't want to wait in an elevator lobby to be on an elevator with 20 people. They don't want a 500 unit building. They don't want 26 apartments on a floor. But, they're going to get views if they're on the 60th floor or the 70th floor that they're not going to get if they're on the 20th.
Right. So we see a shift more to boutique buildings, whether they're tall or not, basically.
So Billionaires
I'm going
Row
to
is not
circle back with you, I'm going to circle back with you too, something to think about when I move to Mo here. What do you have clients that are going, get out of Dodge, get out of America, flee the country? I hate to think that people would do that, but I suspect some wealthy people are going, give it up. But before we get to that, Mo, tell us, you're on the West Coast. You're in your office in Beverly Hills, but you have offices in a lot of different locations. What are you hearing from your clients? What are they thinking about? What are they worried about? how their aspirations change? What's going on there?
Yeah, I agree with Jenny and Dolly. The house has become a very important commodity. I have a lot of clients that we've called and we've asked them, what they think of their house, and some of them have said to us that they wish they bought a bigger house, or they wish they had something different, or they don't really like the great room anymore, and they want multiple rooms so that there could be some sort of a disbursement amongst their kids, and everybody have some sort of a privacy issue. I think people are really now learning how they want to live in a home. Space is super important. We don't have the same density that we have that you guys suffer with in New York. We certainly don't have the same density that they have in Tahoe, but we certainly don't have the same density problems as in New York. And space is becoming a commodity. Larger lots, larger houses, and one of the things that we're seeing amongst our wealthy clients is that they are looking for that drive to destination, the second home. The ones that haven't bought that second home in La Quinta, Palm Desert, Santa Barbara, Newport, Pebble Beach, Monterey, we're seeing a lot of people going there. We're seeing the rental market in Malibu this summer is out of this world. It's just so crazy. You can't rent something in Malibu right now for less than $125,000 a month. The Aspen market is just as hot from a rental perspective. We're seeing offers coming in from there. We're seeing buyers arriving into Aspen and into places like Park City, Los Angeles, Monterey, all of those areas. They're arriving primarily from New York, from London. A lot of Chinese money on the West Coast. We're seeing a lot of Chinese money come over here because of what's happening with Hong Kong, with China, with all of that kind of stuff. So we actually have a pretty decent market. We haven't seen I think a $40 million plus sale yet, but we certainly have during these COVID times seen plenty above $20 million. So there's and like I said, they're moving to and they're looking for new types of homes.
Tell me this, Mo, is it true maybe that luxury wasn't doing that great before COVID-19? And it sounds like there's a lot of moving and shaking in that market that may even be stronger than it was before COVID-19, or am I deluding myself with the wrong facts?
Well, when you say luxury wasn't that great in Los Angeles, and I'm not going to talk about my other markets right now, but the Los Angeles market was actually doing quite well. It was on par with 2019, which was in 28, and that was on par with 2018, even above and better than in 2018 in reality. One of the things that we started seeing in luxury real estate was a big difference between the ask and the bid price. And that what really had nothing to do with the strength of the market or the reality of what the value of the home was. In my opinion, that had to do with something, as you know, Brad, I've been talking about it for 4 and 5 years, which is the fact that developers, I've always called it developer greed, and that developers were just pricing their homes so expensive and so far out that the difference between that bid and the ask price just became outrageous. And so the news started to become, a $250 million home sells for $94 million. Well, $94 million for that home is an outrageous number. It's an extraordinary number. The news should not be, oh shit, there was a discount of over, 50% or 100, depending on how you want to analyze that. It should be like, wow, another $94 million sale. Wow, another $75 million sale. Wow. And by the way, they sold at $3,500 a foot and $3,000 a foot. So these are still extraordinary numbers. It's just that the news became pivoted because of that, what I call, again, the developer greed.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. Let me ask you this, Mauricio. There is a real call to action by everybody now to take some responsibility for some tough issues. We couldn't do anything about COVID, right? That was out of our control. But just in the last week, some of the horror that's happened in the streets of our country, are your clients feeling a need to step it up and be part of the solution here? It feels to me like this is on all of our backs. We've kind of called out to the Inman community, and we're seeing examples of that. What are you hearing on those kind of issues? Are they just running scared, or are they saying, "Hey, I gotta do more and do better here"? To the very wealthy, what are they telling you?
I think it's a mixture of everything. I think that there is definitely a lot of fear. There's a lot of this is starting to happen. It's in Beverly Hills, we've seen vandalism that say "eat the rich, fuck the rich." Some really nasty things, right? So it's definitely a little bit scary. There's no question about that. But I definitely think that, the world has to come together, and the globe, the nation has to come together. I think what I've seen recently today, with the vigil of the Floyd funeral, the policeman kneeling in Florida, you're starting to see perhaps, hopefully, a little bit of an exit and more of world love and world peace and global love. I hope we do, because it definitely gets scary. I mean, there's definitely a lot of wealthy people that would like to do something, but they're also scared to reach out. They're scared to say something. I've seen on Twitter, on social media, wealthy people say stuff, and then all they do is get their heads bit off. Oh, you live in a mansion, you don't know anything. Oh, you do this, you want peace, but you're behind your gates. So it's a very trying time. It's a very difficult time. It's a scary time, and I pray for our nation. I pray that we come out all right.
There you go. Amy, move to Lake Tahoe. You are in a whole different planet here. You're kind of a feeder market for the Bay Area, a whole different set of ethos. Tell us what you're seeing by your clients and how they're thinking about, opportunities in the luxury market in that area.
Sure. So in the last 2 weeks, our market has picked up exponentially. When you and I spoke on the Daily Dispatch, I had mentioned that we were starting to see a little bit more interest come into our market. And since then, things have really just exploded, which is interesting. I don't know that any of us were anticipating that. And a lot of that comes from Bay Area people, the greater Bay Area, have been cooped up in their homes. Many of them are in San Francisco in small apartments or in shared spaces. And so the idea of being up in Tahoe in not only a house, but a house that backs up to the woods or has access to the lake is much more desirable than it ever has been. We are seeing a lot of new people buying into our market from other areas as well, not just the Bay Area. So it's been a really interesting couple of weeks here in Tahoe.
Tell me this, Amy, do you think, just looky-loos, the old expression? Oh, maybe Tahoe. Are you seeing people go, hey, I know Tahoe, I'm out of Dodge, I'm coming to Tahoe? Is it a real deal, or is it just people looking at houses? What do you think?
It's the real deal. It's people that have already gone into escrow and are moving forward. So we've seen a big uptick not only in visits and buyer showings, but in escrows themselves. So things are moving. Properties are seeing multiple offers right now. 44 of the pending 77 are above $1 million, which is not typical for this time of year for us. So we're seeing movement and activity.
And tell me about sellers. You still got a tight market, or some of the jaws of clamp down on sellers with social isolation and everything else? Are they beginning to call you and say, yeah, I'm going to list, I'm getting out of here, or are they staying put?
We are still suffering from low inventory. Tahoe has always kind of struggled with the inventory piece of it. And given that we are a second home market, owning in Tahoe for most people is a luxury, not a necessity, which means that we have a pretty affluent buyer and seller pool. The classic line is, sellers never really need to sell. So it makes for a really interesting transaction most of the time, but people are hanging tight. We have not seen any fire sales. We're not seeing people needing to let go for financial purposes at this time. We're a pretty insulated space here. So I don't anticipate our sales price going down at all. I think we'll still struggle with inventory all summer. And, kind of piggybacking off of what Mauricio said, the rental piece has been really interesting too, because we are so close and accessible to the Bay Area. People are itching to get up here. So as soon as the shelter in place has been fully lifted, we're kind of bracing for impact. You get in your self-contained vehicle with your family, you get into a short-term rental where it's just you and your family again, and you do activities outside and it's safe and you don't have to get on a plane. And usually when we have interest, in the short-term rental world, that oftentimes translates to real estate volume too.
To a buyer, yeah. Hey, here's your shot, Amy. You ready?
1 second, Brad. I got to plug her. I got to interrupt you. But I've been using Tahoe Luxury Properties for years to rent properties up in Tahoe up until I finally bought in Park City and then in Aspen. But they do an amazing job. They're incredible. I went every single summer, and I'm so glad you got Amy on our panel. They're great.
Finally, someone listened to agents and found out what are your pain points and created a technology solution to it. I came from science, I was in biotech. I think how to suck money out of agents has been where money in tech and real estate has gone. Whereas with Side, we love the technology piece of it as far as how helpful it is to us. Side cared about improving a product, improving somebody's life. This is how it should be done. This is how it could have been done, and no one was doing it.
Hi, I'm Marcy Hartley. I'm Kristen Ralph Silberman.
Hi, I'm Billy Nash. My name is Seth O'Byrne. I'm Paul Benson. I'm Frank Azami. I'm Kyle Cruz. Hi, I'm John McMonigal.
And I'm a preferred agent partner with Concierge Options.
Your dedicated agent relationship manager helps put time back on your schedule. What will you do with it?
Thank you to that last panel, and now I really need to get to Tahoe quickly. But for now, our favorite, I think it's everyone's favorite, I want to invite to the virtual stage Sherry Chris for 3 strategies brokers and owners need to focus on now. Sherry?
Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited now to have with us Sherry Chris, CEO of the Realty Expansion Brands. Many of you know Sherry, longtime member of the Inman community, there for everybody all the time, supporting all of us in everything we do. I know during my time of being locked down, Sherry was a close friend who helped me through some ups and downs. Sherry, how are you today?
I am fine, Brad. I'm in downtown Toronto, and I'm actually at the Blue Jays Stadium, Toronto Blue Jays. I'm the only one here with Ivan, my associate and cameraman. And so it's great. And yes, I want to say you've helped me as well through all of this COVID. And here we are approaching the other side and our first virtual conference together. So I'm excited.
Yeah, let's hope it's the other side. Let me just ask you, how are you dealing with it? I don't know about you, and we've talked about this. I think everybody in the world right now feels a heavy weight on their shoulders. It's hard to stand up even. Are you feeling that way? Are you feeling vulnerable and scared at times right now?
Absolutely. And there's no shame in admitting it, Brad, but we have gone through a roller coaster over the past couple of months. This is week number 12 for me. And yes, some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other mornings you wake up hoping that you can make a difference and actually make it through the day. So I think all human beings around the world feel the same thing.
There you go. Let's just jump right into it. We had talked about, I think the value here is for the broker owner audience that's in the Inman community. They got a lot of challenges that are unique from the tech companies, unique from the franchises, unique from the everyday realtor. We really want to focus on what they should be focused on. And you've got 3 very specific recommendations of how the broker owners can get back to business successfully through this torment. Let's start with number 1. Go for it, Sherry.
Okay, so thanks, Brad, and I do have three. And so number one is right size your company for profitability. And again, brokers need to look at what they're doing today, what they've done over the past 2 months, and bring that into the future. So let me share a quick story with you. Day number one, working day, remote, which happened to be March 16th, I started calling brokers. And I called one of my closest brokers. So I said, how are you doing? I was really reaching out, with empathy and wanting to just touch base with people. What he said to me is, he said, I'm fine, because I am going to use this as an opportunity to right size my company. And so those were some of the first encouraging words that I heard, and it carried me through. What he told me is that, and he has about 20 offices. So he said, I have 4 leases coming up in the next 12 months, and I'm not renewing 2 of them. I'm going to consolidate operations. And this scenario, what I call the umbrella of COVID, so it's okay to do things under the umbrella of COVID, forced him to make a tough decision that maybe he wouldn't have made. And so he's gone on to do other things as well. But that was his starting point. And so when we say right size your company for profitability, that's one example of what I mean. I mean, there are many others.
So Sherry, the bottom line there, if you're right-sizing your business for profitability, the big one you can control here is cutting your cost, right? That's the bottom line, right?
That's one. There are others though, Brad. So right-sizing your business, cutting your way to profitability is one. Another one is recruiting successful agents that are culturally aligned within your company that are going to increase the revenue side of things. That's number 2. And number 3 is a very important one, and that's look for M&A opportunities, merger and acquisition opportunities, where you can strategically grow your company by bringing on companies that maybe that broker doesn't want to be in the business anymore. And there are a lot of those right now, I'm telling you. And so, when we look at this first point, right size your company, there are 3 examples of how you can do it.
Perfect. So number 1 is right size your company at profitability. Tell us what number 2 is.
Number 2 is, some people might say it's a little softer, but it's not. It's very important. And that is strengthen your value proposition. So strengthen and define your value prop. And when we think about what we've been through, the consumer is looking to align themselves with agents that will create a deeper relationship with the end consumer, and also looking to align themselves with agents that are culturally aligned. And so what does your brokerage, and I'm asking all of the broker owners in the audience, what does your company stand for? What is your value proposition? Do you have core values? Do you have a strong culture? Now's the time, if not, to actually do that, because I think that it's going to become even more important in the future. I mean, we're all emotional right now. Brad, you and I just talked about that at the beginning of this session. And, we want to align ourselves with people who are truly going to help, both personally and professionally. And, I can tell you a personal story. Last night, I had a Zoom call with my family. So that's my siblings. And we were talking about what was going on. We all live in different parts of North America. And so I said, I am planning to fly to JFK a week from now. And so they said, we don't want you to go because we're afraid that you'll get COVID. And, why are you doing this? You've been so good over the past 2 months. 2.5 months, so don't do it. And I'm thinking, wow, that got me emotional. People are feeling things like that each and every day, and it's spilling over into our professional lives as well. Does that make sense, Brad? I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I understand the personal story. I don't think I completely understand this big concept of what do you stand for. I guess if you were interviewing me and said, what does Inman News stand for? Hopefully I could answer that question. I would question if a broker owner doesn't understand what they stand for, they should probably get out of the real estate business, particularly now, because we got to get down to brass tacks and back to business and running a business. So I'll accept that you're a smart woman and you know what you're doing as a CEO, but that one seems a little vague. The first one totally got it. So let's keep going. You can persuade me. Let's go to number 3. What is number 3 on your...
Before we
well, let's go to number 3. If you get 2 out of 3, in Toronto, in the baseball stadium, you're an MVP. You're batting 660%.
Right.
So go for number 3.
Okay, so number 3 is identify your end-to-end tech platform. You know, and you're going to say, oh, well, everyone has that. No, they don't. But alongside of that is increase adoption. Do you know, Brad, that you know this, is that in the industry, well, first of all, everyone claims to have the best technology. So, you know, you write about it, and you know that there are many claims out there. I make those claims myself, too. But when we think about it, the adoption rate within our industry is, you know, let's say 10 to 15%, maybe 18 to 20 best. We should and need to have a 60 to 70% adoption rate. And it's with simple tools like CRM, for example. There are still agents who are not using tools like that. So now is a time, and I say this, you know, with love and affection, you have a captive audience, brokers, with your agents. You're having daily Zoom calls with them in some cases. Start training them on and hold them accountable on using simple technology so they can, and I go back to the culture piece and the value proposition piece, create deeper relationships with the end consumer. So that's, of course,
I'll just, Sherry, I think you're right on with that one. And I would just add a larger picture here. Broker owners need to embrace the entire digital experience because that's what consumers are expecting now. And I think that they're the ones that can really help create this for their agents. And I also think you ought to shoot for higher than 60 to 70%. But I get it. I feel like the community has adopted technology lately because they've had no other choice to, you know, to close transactions. Let's wrap it up, Sherry, with some of the, you know, anything else that the message to broker owners right now at this time in history, this summer, 2020, what would you tell broker owners they must do right now to get back to business and to succeed on the other side?
Well, I've given my 3 points. I have, you know, one more thing that I would like to talk about, and that is accountability. And I think as broker owners, we need to hold each other accountable to do the right thing out there. And, you know, our country is in somewhat of a crisis right now. The world is as well. And so I believe as brokers that we put a stake in the ground, talk about what we stand for, do the right thing. It ties back to housing, but it also ties back to ourselves as leaders. So my advice to brokers is stand up and be a leader. Lead your agents into the future and do the right thing. And so, Brad, that can have a number of different meanings that we could talk about, but that's really my final point that I wanted to talk to today, other than getting back to number 2 and strengthening your value proposition. But I know you're not going to let me do that.
Well, no, that's fine. I'll tell you what, I'll augment it. You tell me if I'm right. Just look in the mirror, broker owners, when you get off this virtual Connect conference, and just say to yourself, this is what I do and this is what I stand for. And I think it'll come out the right way because, you know, that's why we're all in business. We better know what we stand for. We better know what our purpose is. But anyway, you got a very good grade, and you also you're definitely an MVP for that team in Toronto because there's a long history with Toronto and some of my teams. So you know, the fact that I let you do this from a stadium in Toronto is amazing. But Sherry, you're always the best, and I love our banter because that's what it's all about now. We have to have a dialogue, right?
We have to. So Brad, one final thing is that I really like those glasses on you. Are those
good.
New? They look good. You look good.
I found them in the drawer. I think they're 20 years old.
Hey,
back to
retro
basics.
is in. What can I say?
Sherry, you were great. Thank you so much. Keep coming back. You're a big part of the Inman community. People rely on you and depend on you, and that was a great conversation. Keep after it, and we'll be in touch. Okay, gang, we're going to check out on this segment, and we'll be back soon with the next segment.
I was just staring at Brad's glasses thinking I couldn't find the ones I wore yesterday, and I didn't know if he somehow found them. I love those. We should switch out. You can have these tomorrow. That is it for today. I hope you all enjoyed everything about all the things that we're doing and everyone behind the scenes that's working so hard from our individual places throughout the world. So thank you for joining us. Still lots of things going on this afternoon, a lot of networking opportunities. We have Meet the Exhibitors with our favorite Laura Monroe. I think there's karaoke, like Name That Tune tonight. And of course, tomorrow we'll begin at 11 a.m. Eastern, so join me then. And don't forget the Inman Town Hall. We really want to hear your feedback, and that'll be at 2:15 tomorrow afternoon Eastern right here. So again, thank you, have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.